Do I have too many journals? Possibly. But today I wanted to take you on a little tour of my journal ecosystem. So essentially, all of the different books that help me function and keep my life put together somewhat. And all of these notebooks serve a slightly different purpose. For context, hi, I'm Megan, by the way. I am a professional writer. So for me, that essentially looks like I spend my days doing editing or writing book proposals, doing lots of different services for other authors. And then I also am writing poetry, I'm writing articles, I've been trying to work on some essays, some fun creative writing stuff. I have a children's book. So I'm filling these books with story ideas, different writing for potentially sharing with the world, and some writing that is solely for me. And of course, some of these I'm using more often than others. Some of these are daily, some of these are honestly like once every few months I might put something in there. So let's move over to the desk and I will give you a tour. All right, welcome to the desk. I am going to move this stack off to the side so we can look at these books individually, but I've sort of got them sorted right now into my most used to least used. It's not a perfect organization, but we're going to start with the stuff that I'm using on a daily or at the very least a weekly basis. If you've been hanging out on my channel for a while, you have most definitely seen this. This is my Hobonichi Cousin Avec. Let me pull these out so I can give you a good look at the cover. But this is what it looks like, and this serves as my planner, my to-do lists, and my journal, all kind of mashed into one. I open this up, you can kind of see my calendar pages, which are for planning and like future events, birthdays, and such. Then I've got some weekly pages that for a while I was doing like memory keeping in, but I have now kind of switched off to more of a to-do list situation in here. And that has been working pretty darn well for me. I will say, as I am thinking about what I want to do for this next year, I might move away from keeping my planner and journal in the same book. It's kind of a lot, but man, I really do love this book. Let me show you some journaling pages. So this is where I've been keeping kind of what I just call my daily log. I have a little column here where I just sort of summarize what happened during the day. I might add in some things I was thinking about or stressing over, mulling over, and then on this right-hand column, I might dive deeper into writing about something that happened that day, or something that has really been on my mind. One thing I should note, though, is that even though I am filming this and putting it on YouTube, this is my personal journal. This is where my private thoughts are going. Aside from like wanting to share journaling in general with you guys, like this isn't stuff that's going to get published, right? This isn't going to be something I pull out and show my friends. And that is where this scrapbook comes in. Now I wouldn't really consider this part of my journaling ecosystem, but it is a part of my memory keeping system. So let me give you a quick look at this. I'll have to scoot some stuff out of the way real quick. But this is my Project Life scrapbook. So this is where a lot of my photos go, and quite a bit of my ephemera too, because I am not a huge fan of bulking up my regular journal with photographs. I'll use ephemera and stickers and things to decorate it, but this scrapbook ends up being a better just sort of overview of the year. This particular year, since this is my Project Life scrapbook, I am doing a full spread for every week of the year. So some spreads are a bit more sparse than others. I just love making something that gives such a visual overview of the year and serves pretty much the same function as my childhood photo albums. So if this is something you guys would want to see more of, I would be super down to talk about my scrapbooking situation in another video. But I just wanted to give that as sort of to show you how my memory keeping is kind of separated into journaling versus scrapbooking. So that is a pretty good summary of how I'm using this notebook, mostly just for memory keeping, thought keeping, and then I'm also using it as my planner. So this is my 100% every day. I am always coming back to this. Now we're getting into some other books that are more functional and less cutesy. This is my brain dump notebook. It's kind of cute. It's not very cute. It's not very aesthetic, but I don't really mind that. It's kind of here just to be my scrap paper. So I've got blog ideas that kind of ended up just becoming my YouTube ideas. I've got sketches and quotes, and I suppose this is what you would call a commonplace book. I know some people consider their commonplace to be more of a collection of readings and quotes that they like, but I feel like I've also heard commonplace as just your dumping ground for everything. It's not organized in any way, it's just your whole life in a book. And I feel like that's kind of what this is. I've got sketches for a zine idea that I had, short form video ideas, a sketch of a miniature book shop that we'll see, I might actually get to making before too long. Trying to conceptualize a content schedule and a little bit of to-do lists, even though most of that is in my planner at this point. Another dollhouse concept sketch, journaling, content ideas, brain dumps for when I just need to get it all out of my head. Some notes for some clients that I was doing consulting for, stuff that has been stuck in my head and I need to put it somewhere, or it might help me think through some things, some video ideas. Got a brain dump for a video that I'd like to make that is very unorganized. This would need to be very much rearranged if it was going to be like a script or anything. Some travel plans. This is me trying to figure out how to do everything we want to do in Tokyo Disneyland in a day, which required a full spread. And that's why I love having this 8.5 by 11 book for this. I know, on some days there are lots of different lists that sort of build up over time, but then sometimes I just need the space. I just need space to be able to get things out of my head. Kind of, you've got arrows, you've got stars everywhere. Just a lot of chaos is basically what's in here. And that brings us to our next notebook, which is my creative writing sort of composition book. This is actually, that's my mom's handwriting because this was an unused notebook from grade school. And I've had it in my notebooks for 20 years, probably, based on that. And so I finally dug into this for writing. I've done fiction scenes in here. Let's see what else I've got. Some notes I took while reading some essays on things that I was admiring about the writing, things that I want to emulate, and what makes a good essay. Some ideas for a nonfiction book. Several starters to personal essays that I was thinking through. Some just kind of writing prompts, brainstorms for writing essays, some more fiction. And working in such a plain notebook has kind of helped me embrace the first draftness of it all, to not have to think about whether it is good while I'm working on it. The words just kind of pour out on the page and then I'll figure out if I can do anything with it later. That said, This notebook also serves kind of a similar purpose. I mostly started it, let's see, when did I start this one? I think it was, like 2019. So it's been going for a while. So this notebook is also a creative writing book. Oh, got my charms all tangled up. I added some charms so that it'd be a little bit cutesy. But this creative writing notebook is a lot more poetry. It's got some like marketing ideas, book release to-do list. So it's got a variety of things. It was kind of an everything book. I've got some notes, some website design ideas. It's some combination of these two notebooks that mostly I am just trying to use up. I'm getting close to the end, and then after that I think I will just rely on these couple of books, or maybe I will even combine like all of this into one notebook. I'm not sure, because I love the idea of simplifying, but I also love having different books for different purposes, especially for when I am referencing something, so that I don't have to try and figure out which book I had written something in. Yeah, lots of poetry stuff, zine ideas. I might come back to that. So yeah, it's mostly just if I have a poetry or a very short creative writing idea, it ends up in here. I would say these are like my core books. These are what I'm always coming back to get things out of my head, or in the case of my journal, to intentionally document things on the regular. And then this stack of books that we have left is sort of just a collection of things that I might pick up every once in a while, but I'm not relying on them so much. This book is a sort of commonplace that I use specifically for my favorite poems. I started this in high school when I really started getting into poetry, and I started writing more poetry and wanted to kind of have a collection of my very favorites to reference as I was writing, things to inspire me, and just to kind of have my own personal anthology. I think that's such a fun idea, to have an anthology of just your favorite poems, which is interesting because since I started this book over a decade ago, some of the poems in here do not mean nearly as much to me anymore. It's kind of fun to look back on and see how much I've grown as a poetry reader, or maybe not even necessarily grown, just changed. I've changed a lot of what I look for in poetry, and that's, it's not better or worse, it's just different. Let me give you a glimpse of some of my more recent collections. I also, you might notice, I have picked a specific type of pen that I always go back to. This was this like, what is this, a Pilot like gel pen? I loved these at the time. I thought they looked so professional and nice and smooth. So I have continued, since that's just what I did all of the early pages in. This entry is pretty recent, probably in the past couple of months, because I've been rereading the full works of Edna St. Vincent Millay. Absolutely one of my favorite poets ever. And I love this. So good. I've also been reading some Wendy Cope. That's been fun. Love this one. Love this one. And, oh my gosh, I've been reading so much Maggie Smith. I've been reading everything I can get my hands on from her. I love these. I probably could have copied down at least half, if not all, of her book, Good Bones. Yeah, these have all been this year, because this was from a haiku book that I bought at the beginning of the year. Got some Mary Oliver. We love Mary Oliver here. Oh my gosh. So much good stuff. And so sometimes I will just sit and read this like a book. I love revisiting these poems that I love so much. Some part of me still kind of wants to do like a rings system where I can insert and remove different poems as I see fit, but also, like I said, some part of me kind of treasures the poems that don't resonate with me anymore, but at one point it clearly meant something to me. So that is what I keep in here. Let's move on to our next book. This is my, I hesitate to call it a junk journal because I feel like that implies some level of memory keeping, but it's just an old planner that I didn't really get that much use out of, and I have gone in and just filled it with trash. It's not really any sort of memory keeping. It's just whatever I feel like doing to be working with my hands. Something tactile, something, I don't know, some sort of little art project that doesn't have to look good. Just scraps from when I'd like cut something out of a magazine, or some wrappers, all sorts of stuff going on here. The intent is that I will go back and like add more layers to some of this, but if I don't get around to it, that's all right. Yeah, just making a mess is basically, this was some leftover paint from that other page. I didn't want to waste it, so I just slapped it on there. Just making a big old mess and having fun with it is kind of what this book was. This was a day when I was having some feelings, and so I was like, you know what'll make me feel better? Just taking a pen and absolutely destroying a page. But yeah, that's sort of what's going on in here. I really hesitate to call it a junk journal because it is kind of just junk. Like there's no journal element to it other than it being bound in a book. Next we have a sketchbook that I haven't used nearly as much as I wanted to yet, but I mostly got it so that I would practice drawing without feeling the need to produce something. It's okay if it's bad. The whole intention behind this book, which you can see is not very filled, was to just put a pencil on paper and draw whatever I feel like drawing, just to practice drawing. It's not anything that I, want to specifically share with anyone or publicize or make money off of. It's just, I just want to be a better artist. And so that's what that has been. That was a quick one because there are like 4 pages in there. This, I super don't use very often. I've honestly kind of considered just tossing it. This is a dream journal that I have just been keeping in my bedside table for a long time. I think this also starts in like high school or college, but I just write down what I was having a dream about the night before, and I kept it by my bedside with the intention that I would, like, as soon as I woke up, I would write down whatever I was dreaming about. That didn't happen. That is probably my least used notebook, but I wanted to include it because it is technically a running notebook that I come back to every once in a while. And then that brings us to our final book. This is my church notes book. I guess that's what you would call it. It is just a cheapy spiral bound book that I started actually for a youth group retreat in, 2013. So we've been working on this a while. You can see some of my gel pen journaling from 2013. So I was writing all of my quiet times, my notes for all of the sermons and stuff in here. And then I had so much book left that this kind of just became my notes for going to churches. Got lots of stuff taped in too. You'll see lots of different church programs, note sheets that were handed out. And what it's become more recently is more of notes on books that I'm reading. This is a really good one if you are looking for a book about separating religion from culture, especially American culture and politics and stuff. And I've got some personal study and prayer lists in here too, but I haven't been taking it to any events where I would take notes because it is just kind of unwieldy. So the goal is, since I am kind of nearing the end, that I can eventually move into something a little smaller that I can actually take with me when I'm going to events where I might want to take notes. And frankly, something that's just a little prettier for wanting to pull out in public. This is very bright and not aesthetic, although I will say the thin paper makes the paper so crinkly once I've written on it. And that just about wraps up my journals. I do think, especially as I am starting to wrap up some of these books, that I want to consolidate a little bit. Then there are also things that I want to reference specifically. Like if I want to find notes on a Bible passage, I know that I can just flip through here and look for it, and I don't have to search through, years of random to-do lists and grocery lists and marketing ideas and poetry. I know exactly where it is. And the same thing goes for looking for like one of my favorite poems or a poem that I wrote or video ideas. Everything is in its own specific place. So I don't really have trouble remembering where I put something, where I wrote something down, but I still kind of crave more simplicity than this. So we will see as I move into next year and I consider what this is gonna look like in the future. I did realize that I have a couple more notebooks that I can show you. They're not ones that I use as much as I'd like to, but I did want to show you. These are the books that I keep in my purse. These are the ones that I write in when I'm out and about. I have had this Bambi one in my bag for forever, and I've just got like different, I guess I got like some to-do lists, some ideas that I just wanted to get written down. A little note. I don't know who that was for, but I guess I was gonna be right back. I've got some kids' drawings from, we must have been like sitting and waiting for something, and so I gave her my notebook to entertain herself on. And then this one serves the same purpose. I just am kind of keeping it in there for any bigger notes. I've only used like a couple of pages so far. But the thing about these is I so often just use my phone notes, which I know some people, especially journal type people, really try to avoid using phone notes in favor of notebooks. And I love that. I love that so much. I love any chance I can get to get off of my screens. That said, I really like the functionality of my phone notes just being right in my pocket, and the fact that I can search and all of my most used notes are right at the top because it organizes by what you've accessed the most recently. So I would really love to use these some more so they're not just sitting in my bag. But then again, if the system works for me, why change it, So I want to experiment a bit more to see if I can't move more into analog things and see how it goes. Because you know what? It might make my life better if I can move into it. But for right now, my phone notes is where it's at. That, I think, is officially all of the notebooks that I am actively using right now. And that just about wraps up my journal ecosystem. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I love chatting with you guys about my notebooks, my writing. So if you are interested in more journal talk, let me know in the comments what you'd like to hear more about. I've got plenty to talk about here and I could yap all day about it. But in the meantime, I will see you next time. Bye.